Communication is more than words. It's power, influence, and connection. How to speak smart. Master the psychology of powerful communication takes you on a life-changing journey through 10 transformational chapters, from understanding human psychology and mastering emotional intelligence to commanding words that inspire action. Each chapter builds a new layer of self-mastery, guiding you to connect deeper, lead stronger, and speak with unshakable confidence. But the final chapter, Leave Lasting Impact, reveals the ultimate secret: how to make your voice unforgettable and your presence eternal. Don't miss it. Subscribe to Audiobook Shift for more powerful insights that elevate your mind, message, and life. Number 1. Understand human psychology. Understanding human psychology is the foundation of every powerful communicator. The ability to speak smart begins long before words are spoken. It begins in the quiet space of awareness. Awareness of how people think, feel, and react. Every conversation is a dance between two minds. To master it, one must understand not just what to say, but how the human brain processes emotion, trust, and influence. Those who speak without understanding people only fill the air with sound. Those who understand the mind create impact that lasts long after the words fade. Human psychology is shaped by one thing above all: emotion. People rarely respond to pure logic. They respond to how something makes them feel. When someone listens, they aren't analyzing your vocabulary. They're interpreting your tone, your energy, and your presence. The secret to speaking smart is not to sound impressive, but to sound sincere. A person who speaks with understanding will always outshine the one who speaks with complexity. To communicate powerfully, it's essential to understand the driving forces behind human behavior. Every person carries invisible desires to feel valued, respected, understood, and safe. When communication fulfills these psychological needs, influence happens naturally. When it threatens them, walls are built. A smart communicator knows how to speak to both the mind and the heart. Words are chosen not to dominate, but to connect. Listening becomes as important as speaking, because understanding is the first step toward influence. Human beings are emotional creatures who justify their emotions with logic. When someone agrees with you, it isn't because your argument is flawless. It's because your words align with how they already feel or want to feel. Understanding this changes everything. Instead of trying to prove others wrong, aim to make them feel seen. Instead of trying to sound right, aim to sound relatable. Psychology teaches that people remember emotion far longer than they remember facts. A powerful communicator therefore focuses on creating an emotional experience through their presence and words. To understand people deeply, observe before you speak. Watch the way their eyes move when they talk. Notice their energy when they enter a room. Every gesture, every pause, every glance reveals a story. People communicate even when they're silent. The human mind leaks through body language, tone, and expression. A person who observes these signs with calm curiosity can read others better than those who rush to fill silence with words. Observation sharpens emotional intuition, and intuition builds connection. Understanding psychology also means understanding the different lenses through which people see the world. Everyone's perception is shaped by their experiences, beliefs, and emotional wounds. What offends one person may not even bother another. A wise communicator does not take reactions personally. Instead, they view them as reflections of the listener's inner world. When someone becomes defensive, it often has little to do with the conversation and everything to do with how they feel about themselves. The ability to stay calm and composed while others are emotional is one of the greatest signs of psychological intelligence. To speak smart, one must master the principle of mirroring, not mimicry, but alignment. When you subtly mirror someone's tone, pace, or language patterns, their subconscious feels harmony. It signals familiarity and safety, creating instant rapport. This is not manipulation. It is connection through empathy. People trust those who seem to understand them. Mirroring is a quiet way of saying, "I see you, and I respect your rhythm." The mind naturally lowers its guard when it feels understood. Another key to understanding psychology is learning the power of stories. The human brain is wired to think in narratives. When someone tells a story, our minds synchronize with theirs. We don't just hear the story, we live it in our imagination. This is why stories persuade more than statistics and move hearts faster than logic ever can. A communicator who understands this crafts their message, not as a speech, but as an experience. Every powerful conversation contains elements of storytelling, emotion, tension, and resolution. When communication feels like a story, the listener's mind becomes open and receptive. People also respond strongly to authenticity. The brain is a master at detecting insincerity. Fake confidence, forced enthusiasm, or empty flattery are quickly exposed by subtle cues in body language and tone. To understand psychology is to understand that people don't want perfection. They want realness. When you speak with honesty, even if your delivery isn't flawless, people feel your truth. Authenticity creates trust faster than any technique. A powerful communicator doesn't pretend to be more. They simply express who they truly are with clarity and calm strength. Human beings are also driven by status and belonging. Every person wants to feel important. When someone feels inferior, they withdraw or resist. When they feel valued, they engage. Smart communicators elevate others in conversation. They use language that empowers rather than diminishes. They give credit, express gratitude, and recognize effort. This triggers positive emotional responses in the listener, creating openness and goodwill. When people feel appreciated, they become more willing to listen, collaborate, and follow. Understanding human psychology requires emotional discipline. Words spoken in anger can destroy trust built over years. The ability to remain calm when provoked is one of the highest forms of communication intelligence. The Stoics believe that power lies in self-control, responding, not reacting. In every conversation, there is a moment between stimulus and response. That pause determines the quality of your influence. The person who can stay centered under pressure commands respect without demanding it. Calm energy speaks louder than raised voices. To speak smart, you must learn to adapt. Not everyone listens the same way. Some people need reassurance, others need logic, and some need silence. Understanding personality differences helps you tailor your approach. A person who craves certainty responds well to clarity. A person who values freedom responds well to choice. A communicator who understands these differences creates alignment instead of conflict. The goal is not to speak the same way to everyone, but to speak in a way that each person can best receive. In the world of communication, ego is the greatest barrier. Many people speak to be heard, not to understand. They listen only to reply, not to connect. But understanding psychology reminds us that true communication is not a battle of egos. It's a meeting of minds. The person who listens with patience, who seeks to understand before being understood, always gains deeper insight and influence. Wisdom grows in the space where silence meets empathy. Practical mastery of human psychology begins with self-awareness. You cannot understand others until you understand yourself. Notice your own emotional triggers. Pay attention to how your tone changes when you feel stressed or unheard. Every external reaction begins as an internal state. By managing your own emotions, you gain clarity in understanding others. Self-mastery is the foundation of communication mastery. When your mind is stable, your words carry weight. In every conversation, remember that people are not logical machines. They are emotional beings, searching for meaning, respect, and connection. The more you align with these inner needs, the more power your words carry. Speaking smart isn't about using big words or clever phrases. It's about understanding what people truly crave: recognition, safety, and belonging. When your communication meets these needs, your influence becomes natural, not forced. The path to mastering human psychology is not about manipulation or control. It's about harmony, aligning your message with human nature instead of fighting against it. Speak with empathy, listen with intent, and observe with patience. See the emotions beneath words, the stories behind reactions, and the fears behind defenses. Every person you meet is carrying something unseen. When your communication honors that truth, you create space for trust, growth, and understanding. Understanding human psychology transforms ordinary communication into connection that shapes lives. It turns conversations into opportunities for impact. The mind that understands people holds the power to inspire them, guide them, and heal them through words alone. When you master the human element of communication, your speech no longer seeks approval. It delivers truth with grace. Your presence becomes calm yet commanding, compassionate yet firm. That is the essence of speaking smart. To know not just the science of words, but the soul behind them. Number 2. Master emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the unseen force that separates those who merely speak from those who truly connect. It is the ability to understand, manage, and express emotions in a way that strengthens relationships, builds trust, and influences outcomes without force. When you master emotional intelligence, you stop reacting to the world and start directing your energy with purpose. You become aware not only of what you feel, but why you feel it. And this awareness becomes a quiet power that steadies your presence in every interaction. People gravitate toward those who radiate emotional stability because they offer something rare in a noisy world: calmness and clarity. Every conversation carries an emotional current. Beneath every word lies a feeling: fear, hope, pride, insecurity, excitement. Emotional intelligence is the art of reading those undercurrents without judgment. It means recognizing the emotion behind someone's tone, understanding what they're really trying to express, even when their words fail to capture it. People often say things they don't mean when they feel misunderstood, but when they sense genuine understanding, defenses fall away. Communication becomes effortless when both minds meet on the level of emotion rather than ego. To master emotional intelligence, begin with self-awareness. This is the foundation of all emotional mastery. It means paying close attention to your internal state throughout the day. Notice how your mood changes when someone criticizes you, or how your energy shifts when someone praises you. Observe your reactions as if you were an impartial witness. This simple awareness interrupts emotional impulsiveness. Instead of being pulled by every feeling, you start to direct it. You realize emotions are not commands. They are signals. They are information that guide you, not forces that define you. Once you understand your own emotions, the next step is self-regulation. This is where strength is built. Anyone can be kind when things are easy, but real mastery shows itself when pressure rises. Emotional regulation doesn't mean suppressing feelings. It means channeling them wisely. Anger, for instance, can be destructive when uncontrolled, yet powerful when used as motivation to correct injustice or fuel growth. Frustration can either lead to bitterness or refinement depending on how you use it. The person who has mastered emotional regulation maintains composure when chaos surrounds them, allowing their presence to bring stability instead of tension. Empathy is the second pillar of emotional intelligence. It is the ability to step into someone else's emotional world and view reality through their perspective. Most people listen only to respond. Empathetic individuals listen to understand. When you communicate with empathy, people open up because they feel safe. They no longer feel the need to defend their position. Empathy dissolves barriers faster than arguments ever can. It turns confrontations into cooperation and converts misunderstanding into mutual respect. It is not weakness. It is one of the most powerful tools of influence available to any human being. Emotional intelligence also requires social awareness. Every environment carries a unique emotional atmosphere. You can feel it when you walk into a room: the tension, the excitement, the unease. Those who are socially aware pick up on these subtle cues instantly. They can sense when to speak, when to stay silent, and when to change the direction of a conversation. This awareness allows them to adapt fluidly, making others feel comfortable and valued. They are like emotional mirrors, reflecting what others need to see in order to feel understood. But awareness alone is not enough. True mastery comes from using that awareness to build connection. This is where emotional intelligence transforms into communication power. When you can sense what others feel and manage your own emotions with calm strength, your words carry unusual impact. People begin to trust your intentions because your presence feels safe and steady. You become the person others look to for guidance, not because you speak the loudest, but because your energy speaks the clearest. Emotionally intelligent communication thrives on balance. It's knowing when to be firm and when to be gentle, when to challenge and when to comfort. It's the skill of delivering truth without cruelty, of correcting someone without humiliating them. The emotionally intelligent communicator doesn't seek to win every exchange. They seek to elevate every exchange. Their goal is understanding, not domination. They know that communication is not a contest of intellect, but an exchange of emotion. Developing emotional intelligence also requires humility. It takes strength to admit when you've misunderstood someone or allowed emotion to cloud your judgment. Pride blinds understanding, while humility opens it. A humble communicator accepts that they don't always see the full picture. They ask questions, they clarify, they apologize when necessary. This humility earns respect because it reflects maturity. The emotionally intelligent person values connection more than being right. Practicing emotional intelligence in daily life means slowing down before reacting. When you feel irritation rise, pause, take a breath before replying. Ask yourself what emotion is being triggered and what outcome you actually want. That pause is a moment of power, the space where wisdom replaces impulse. Over time, this practice rewires the mind to respond with intention rather than habit. People who master this ability stop wasting energy on unnecessary conflict. They conserve emotional energy for growth, creativity, and meaningful relationships. Another critical part of emotional intelligence is resilience. Emotionally intelligent people don't crumble under criticism or rejection. They understand that others' words often reveal more about the speaker's state than their own worth. They extract feedback without absorbing negativity. They understand that life will always bring tension, but how they interpret that tension determines their peace. Resilience allows them to stay focused on purpose rather than being tossed around by circumstance. Emotionally intelligent leaders and communicators also recognize the importance of boundaries. Compassion does not mean allowing yourself to be drained. Understanding others must never come at the cost of neglecting yourself. Healthy emotional boundaries protect your inner peace and keep your energy stable. It's possible to care deeply for others while still saying no when necessary. Emotional intelligence involves knowing when to give, when to pull back, and when to rest. Without boundaries, empathy becomes exhaustion. With boundaries, empathy becomes strength. In the realm of communication, tone carries more power than words. Emotionally intelligent individuals are masters of tone. They understand that how something is said often matters more than what is said. A calm voice can diffuse anger. A kind tone can soften resistance. Even silence can speak volumes when delivered with intention. Mastering tone requires emotional presence, being fully aware of how your energy affects the atmosphere around you. Every word you speak becomes more effective when it emerges from emotional awareness rather than emotional reactivity. Emotional intelligence also sharpens intuition. When you attune to emotions, both your own and others, you begin to sense truths that logic alone cannot explain. You can feel when something is off, when someone isn't saying what they truly mean, or when the atmosphere shifts. This intuitive awareness helps you navigate complex conversations with confidence. It allows you to read between the lines, to see not only the message, but the motive behind it. Such awareness gives you an almost invisible edge in every interaction. At its deepest level, emotional intelligence is self-mastery. It's the discipline to maintain grace under pressure, to stay kind when others are unkind, and to communicate truth without aggression. It's the steady presence that anchors others when they lose control. It's the strength to feel deeply yet remain centered. This level of mastery requires consistent reflection and daily practice. Every time you respond with patience instead of irritation, you strengthen it. Every time you listen instead of rushing to speak, you refine it. When you master emotional intelligence, communication ceases to be about performance. It becomes about presence. People will remember how they felt around you long after they forget your exact words. They will sense your calm in chaos, your understanding in disagreement, your steadiness in uncertainty. This is the essence of powerful communication, not perfection, but awareness guided by empathy and self-control. Emotional intelligence turns ordinary speech into a language of influence. It allows your words to carry weight because they are backed by emotional truth. In the end, emotional intelligence is not something you claim, it's something you live. It is expressed in your patience, in your tone, in your ability to choose understanding over reaction. It's in the way you make others feel heard, valued, and respected. Mastering it doesn't happen overnight, but every conscious effort strengthens it. Over time, it becomes your natural way of being, calm, compassionate, and wise. When that happens, you no longer just communicate, you connect. And connection, more than any technique or talent, is what makes a person truly unforgettable. Number 3, command verbal precision. Commanding verbal precision means mastering the rare ability to use language with clarity, power, and purpose. Every word becomes intentional, every sentence a reflection of discipline and awareness. Most people speak to be heard, few speak to be understood. Those who command verbal precision understand that speech is not about the volume of words, but the accuracy of meaning. When language is refined, it carries weight, it shapes perception, builds trust, and influences without the need for force. The world responds differently to someone whose words are sharp, measured, and sincere. To communicate with precision, one must begin by valuing silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is space for thought. When you pause before speaking, you create room for clarity to take shape. Rushed words often dilute impact, while deliberate speech magnifies it. Precision thrives in stillness. It requires restraint, not abundance. The disciplined communicator knows that power grows not from saying more, but from saying what matters. Silence becomes a tool sharpening each phrase until it cuts through noise with calm authority. Every word has energy. Some words uplift, others wound, and many simply waste space. Mastering verbal precision means developing sensitivity to the emotional charge of language. Words like always, never, or should often create resistance because they sound absolute. Phrases such as perhaps, consider, or let's explore invite openness. Language is not only logic, it is emotional architecture. When you select words that align with your intent and respect the listener's emotions, communication transforms from conflict into connection. Precision, therefore, is both intellectual and emotional. It is the ability to align thought, feeling, and expression into one coherent stream. A person who commands language understands the relationship between clarity and confidence. Ambiguity weakens authority, while clear speech builds credibility. People follow those who articulate ideas simply because simplicity signals understanding. When you explain something clearly, it shows mastery. Confusion in language often reflects confusion in thought. To refine speech, first refine thinking. Before you speak, know exactly what you mean. This habit forces the mind to organize itself. Over time, clarity of thought becomes second nature, and communication follows naturally with precision. Verbal precision is not about complexity, it is about exactness. A skilled communicator avoids unnecessary ornamentation. They know that true eloquence lies in simplicity. When your words are clear, people listen longer. They stop decoding your sentences and start absorbing your message. Complexity impresses minds temporarily. Clarity influences them permanently. Every great leader, teacher, or thinker has mastered this. They speak in ways that even a child can understand, not because they simplify ideas, but because they understand them deeply enough to express them clearly. The tone in which you deliver words is as vital as the words themselves. Precision is not cold or mechanical. It is alive with intentional rhythm. The pace of your speech, the pauses between sentences, and the emphasis on certain words create emotional texture. A steady tone builds trust. Controlled pacing commands respect. Varying your rhythm draws attention and maintains engagement. When you align the melody of your voice with the meaning of your words, you create harmony that the mind remembers long after the sound fades. Precision also requires awareness of context. Words that inspire in one setting may offend in another. The wise communicator understands the environment before speaking. They assess the culture, the mood, and the expectations of their audience. They know how to adapt language to fit the moment without betraying authenticity. Context is not censorship, it is respect. It means recognizing that words gain or lose power depending on where and how they are spoken. The same sentence can empower one person and alienate another. The difference lies in timing, tone, and sensitivity. The art of precision begins long before speech. It begins with listening. Those who listen deeply speak wisely. When you truly hear others, your responses become sharper because they are rooted in understanding, not assumption. Listening trains the mind to recognize patterns, intentions, and subtleties in language. It reveals what people actually mean, not just what they say. The best communicators are not those who dominate conversations, but those who refine their responses from what they learn in silence. Listening filters noise from truth. One of the greatest skills of verbal precision is the ability to condense complex ideas into simple, memorable phrases. This is how ideas travel. People rarely remember long explanations, but they remember sentences that resonate. Crafting concise, powerful statements requires discipline. It demands stripping away every unnecessary word until only truth remains. When you can explain your thoughts clearly in few words, you demonstrate control over both mind and language. Great thinkers and leaders have always used this principle: brevity with depth, simplicity with substance. Another essential part of commanding words is self-control during emotional moments. When emotions rise, precision disappears, the mind becomes clouded, and speech becomes careless. One harsh word spoken in anger can undo years of respect. Mastery means maintaining awareness even when provoked. It means speaking from intention, not reaction. A composed response carries far greater impact than a passionate outburst. The discipline to pause before replying is not weakness, it is strategy. It ensures that what leaves your mouth reflects wisdom, not impulse. Language also holds the power to shape your inner world. The way you speak to yourself determines how you show up to others. Words like "I can't," "I'm not enough," or "I always fail" program your mind to shrink. Replace them with precise affirmations grounded in truth, not illusion. Say, "I'm improving," "I'm learning," or "I'm capable." This shift in internal language strengthens emotional posture. Precision in self-talk builds confidence, and confidence naturally refines external speech. When your inner dialogue is disciplined, your outer communication becomes clear and unwavering. Verbal precision grows through awareness of linguistic habits. Many people fill speech with unnecessary noise, or filler phrases that weaken presence. These verbal habits distract from meaning and reduce authority. The path to refinement begins with observation. Record yourself speaking, read aloud and notice patterns. Replace filler with purposeful pauses. Every silent second adds strength to your delivery. The more you remove linguistic clutter, the sharper your message becomes. Precision also involves understanding the art of questioning. Powerful communicators don't rush to give answers, they ask the right questions. A well-crafted question can unlock insight faster than 1,000 explanations. When you ask with clarity, others think clearly in response. Questions like, "What do you mean by that?" or "How can we improve this?" guide conversations towards solutions rather than confusion. Precision in inquiry transforms dialogue into discovery. Words should never be used carelessly because they carry consequence. Promises, instructions, apologies, and commitments all depend on precise language. A vague statement can cause misunderstanding, but a clear one creates alignment. When giving directions, be exact. When expressing gratitude, be specific. When offering criticism, be constructive. People respond better when they know exactly what is meant. Precision builds reliability. It shows that your words are not random expressions but deliberate action. To strengthen verbal precision, make reading and writing daily disciplines. Reading sharpens understanding of language, rhythm, while writing trains structure and clarity. Write as you speak, simply, directly, truthfully. Edit your words until each one earns its place. Over time, this practice will translate into natural precision in conversation. Just as a sculptor chisels away stone to reveal art, a communicator chisels away excess to reveal meaning. Ultimately, commanding verbal precision is about responsibility. Language is a tool that can heal or harm, inspire or discourage. Those who use it with care elevate the energy of every space they enter. Precision is not about sounding intelligent. It's about being intentional. Every phrase should serve a purpose. Every statement should align with truth. When your words become instruments of clarity, you no longer just communicate, you shape understanding. In a world overwhelmed by noise, precise speech stands out like calm in a storm. It signals control, wisdom, and respect. People will listen because they sense that your words are not scattered, but sculpted. They will trust you because your communication leaves no confusion, no pretense, no waste. Precision turns speech into art and language into leadership. When you master it, your voice carries the quiet force of conviction. You no longer chase attention. You command it naturally through clarity, integrity, and discipline. Number 4, read subtle cues. The ability to read subtle cues is one of the most refined forms of intelligence a communicator can develop. It is the quiet art of perceiving what others are saying without words, sensing emotions that haven't been voiced, and noticing energy shifts that reveal what logic alone cannot. Most people listen to words. Few listen to what exists between them. The person who can recognize those unspoken signals gains insight far beyond surface conversation. Reading subtle cues allows you to understand people's intentions, emotions, and comfort levels before they even articulate them. It turns ordinary observation into mastery of human connection. Every interaction is layered with hidden communication. A flicker of the eyes, a slight change in breathing, the direction of someone's feet, all of these hold meaning. The human body is a constant storyteller. When people are comfortable, their posture opens. When uneasy, they close off. When they are truly engaged, their eyes linger longer and their gestures synchronize with yours. These signs appear in fractions of a second, and most of them happen unconsciously. The skilled communicator trains the mind to notice without staring, to interpret without assuming. Awareness grows not from effort but from quiet attention. Reading subtle cues begins with slowing down. The faster you move, the less you notice. Most people rush through conversations focused on what to say next, leaving no space to observe the atmosphere around them. Stillness sharpens perception. When you give your full presence to a person, you start to sense their inner state. When they're tense, when they're hiding emotion, when they're genuinely open, your attention becomes a mirror, reflecting truth that the other person may not even realize they're expressing. This awareness turns simple dialogue into deep understanding. Facial expressions reveal the emotions people try hardest to hide. A fleeting microexpression, an eyebrow raised, a corner of the mouth tightening, can expose hesitation or disagreement long before words do. Genuine smiles engage the eyes, while forced ones only lift the lips. Eyes that move rapidly often signal anxiety. Eyes that remain steady indicate confidence. Observing these nuances is not about judgment. It's about awareness. The face is a map of emotion, and each subtle movement is a clue to what lies beneath the surface. Body language speaks volumes about someone's true feelings. When a person angles their torso toward you, it signals interest. When they subtly turn away, it shows withdrawal. Crossed arms may not always mean defensiveness. It can also indicate self-comfort, but paired with tight shoulders, it often means resistance. Hands that move freely show comfort, while clenched fists or hidden palms reveal tension. Even how someone occupies space reflects their confidence. The person who stands tall and grounded communicates certainty, while the one who shrinks inward reveals hesitation. The more you study posture and gesture, the more fluent you become in this unspoken language. Tone of voice carries emotional information that words alone can't express. The same sentence can feel warm, indifferent, or harsh, depending on tone. Subtle shifts in pitch, volume, and rhythm expose emotion far more accurately than vocabulary. A slight crack in the voice may reveal sadness. A sudden increase in pace may signal anxiety. To read tone well, focus not only on what is said, but how it is delivered. Listen to where the voice tightens or softens. The emotionally intelligent listener doesn't analyze. They feel the energy behind the sound. Timing is another cue that often goes unnoticed. When someone hesitates before answering, it could mean they are being careful, uncertain, or hiding discomfort. Quick responses suggest confidence or impatience. Long pauses may show reflection or disinterest. People also reveal emotion in how quickly they respond to messages or how long they take to return calls. The rhythm of communication carries meaning. Reading this rhythm helps you adjust your own pace to match the emotional tempo of others. Environment also affects subtle cues. People behave differently depending on where they are. A person who appears relaxed in private might become guarded in a group. Reading cues accurately means understanding context. The same gesture can carry opposite meanings depending on situation. For example, avoiding eye contact might suggest dishonesty in one setting, but humility or respect in another. Precision in observation requires sensitivity to culture, personality, and circumstance. Without context, interpretation becomes assumption. To read subtle cues effectively, one must develop emotional neutrality. If you're overly focused on your own emotions or expectations, you'll project meaning instead of perceiving it. Observation demands quiet ego. Detach from the need to be right. Approach each person as if you are discovering them for the first time. When your mind is still and your attention is pure, the truth of others reveals itself naturally. You see things others miss because you're not distracted by internal noise. Mirroring plays a vital role in reading and responding to cues. When you subtly reflect someone's gestures, tone, or pace, you create harmony that builds trust. But equally important is noticing when others mirror you. If they begin to match your posture or breathing rhythm, it signals rapport. When mirroring stops, it may mean they are losing comfort or interest. This invisible dance between bodies is one of the most powerful indicators of connection or disconnection. The key is to observe it quietly, never forcing synchronization, but allowing it to occur naturally through presence. Eyes often reveal what words conceal. They move before the mouth opens, giving away thought and emotion. When someone looks upward while thinking, they're recalling images. When they glance sideways, they're assessing emotion. Avoiding gaze may show discomfort, but excessive eye contact can signal aggression or overcompensation. The most natural connection occurs when eye contact flows effortlessly, matching the rhythm of trust. The eyes are honest, they can't lie for long. Space and distance are physical expressions of psychological boundaries. How close someone stands to you reveals comfort or caution. People who feel at ease often move subtly closer during conversation. Those who feel threatened lean back or shift away. The ability to respect space is a sign of social intelligence. Invading personal distance can trigger defense, while maintaining too much distance can feel cold. Reading these boundaries allows you to adjust naturally, signaling respect and understanding. Small inconsistencies between words and behavior often reveal hidden truths. When someone says they're fine but their shoulders sag, they're not fine. When they agree verbally but their head shakes slightly, they're conflicted. The body rarely lies. A skilled observer learns to trust physical signals more than verbal assurances. These contradictions aren't always deceit. They often reflect internal struggle. Recognizing them with empathy rather than suspicion helps you respond wisely. Reading subtle cues also requires sensitivity to energy. Every person radiates an emotional frequency that can be felt if you're still enough. Sometimes you can sense tension before anyone speaks. You feel the weight in the air, the tightness in the atmosphere. Other times you feel warmth and ease as soon as someone enters. These impressions are real. They are the body's intuitive response to emotional signals. It detects subconsciously. Honoring these instincts gives you valuable insight into people's true states. To develop this skill, practice mindfulness in every interaction. Notice details without labeling them. Pay attention to rhythm, movement, and micro changes in behavior. Over time, your mind begins to register patterns automatically. You become able to read a room within seconds, not because you judge, but because you perceive. Awareness becomes instinct. However, reading subtle cues is only half the skill. The other half is responding with wisdom. Once you sense discomfort, adjust your tone to warmth. When you notice enthusiasm, feed it with encouragement. When you detect fatigue, slow your pace. The goal is not manipulation but alignment. You're learning to communicate in the language of emotion, the language most people speak unconsciously. Responding to cues shows care, and care creates connection. True mastery of this art transforms relationships. People feel deeply understood around you even when you say little. They sense safety in your presence because you notice what others overlook. You become trusted not for what you say, but for what you perceive. This ability builds influence that no title or authority can replace. It makes your communication effortless, intuitive, and profoundly human. Reading subtle cues also strengthens self-awareness. When you observe others deeply, you start noticing your own signals too. The tension in your shoulders, the restlessness in your tone, the impatience in your eyes. You begin to align your own nonverbal messages with your intention. You learn to speak not just with words, but with presence. Consistency between what you say and what your body expresses gives your communication integrity. In every moment, the world is speaking through gestures, expressions, and silence. Most ignore it because they're too focused on their own performance. But those who train themselves to read subtle cues hold quiet power. They can navigate complex situations with grace, anticipate needs before they're spoken, and diffuse tension before it escalates. They create harmony in environments that others find chaotic. To read subtle cues is to understand humanity beyond language. It's seeing emotion in motion, thought in posture, truth in micro-expression. It's perceiving the invisible layers of communication that shape every interaction. When you master this, you no longer just listen, you see, you no longer just observe, you feel. And through that awareness, you gain the rare ability to connect deeply, influence silently, and communicate with precision that words alone could never achieve. Number 5, build instant trust. Building instant trust is one of the rarest and most valuable abilities a person can possess. It's not about charisma, flattery, or manipulation. It's about authenticity that can be felt before a single word is spoken. Trust forms in the small moments between people, in the energy of presence, in the steadiness of tone, in the honesty of eyes. It's what allows communication to move from surface-level conversation to genuine connection. When trust exists, people open up, ideas flow freely, and influence happens naturally. Without it, even the most eloquent words collapse under suspicion. The essence of powerful communication begins and ends with trust. Trust is not built through performance. It's built through congruence. People don't believe what they hear. They believe what they feel. They sense whether your words and your energy align. If you speak of confidence but your body hesitates, the listener notices. If you express kindness but your eyes show impatience, the truth reveals itself. Humans are wired to detect inconsistency. Authenticity creates instant credibility because it removes the need to question your motives. When who you are matches what you say, people feel safe. That feeling of safety is the soil where trust grows instantly. The first step to building trust is presence. Nothing communicates respect more deeply than full attention. In a world drowning in distraction, presence is magnetic. When you give someone your undivided focus, they feel valued in a way that words can't replicate. You can see this in the way people soften when they realize they're truly being listened to. They lower their guard. They stop rehearsing defenses and start revealing truths. Presence tells others, you matter right now. It's not grand gestures but quiet attention that creates connection strong enough to bridge any divide. Another foundation of instant trust is emotional transparency. People connect more deeply with sincerity than perfection. When you're willing to show vulnerability, whether that's through admitting uncertainty, sharing a personal truth, or expressing genuine emotion, you give permission for authenticity to exist. Vulnerability doesn't weaken authority. It strengthens it by proving that you're real. Pretending to have it all figured out creates distance. Speaking with honesty creates intimacy. The moment people sense you are hiding behind a mask, they disconnect. But when you speak with grounded openness, they move closer because they can relate to you as a fellow human being. Consistency is the invisible thread that weaves trust into permanence. People may be impressed by brilliance, but they trust reliability. The way you greet, respond, and follow through, these small actions build a pattern that people learn to depend on. When your behavior remains steady even when circumstances change, others sense stability. They know what to expect from you, and that predictability creates comfort. Inconsistency breeds anxiety. Consistency breeds loyalty. Every interaction, no matter how minor, contributes to the reputation you build. Over time, trust becomes less about words and more about the memory of your dependability. To build trust quickly, align your energy with sincerity. People read your tone faster than they process your message. When your voice carries calm assurance, it signals control and care. When your gestures are relaxed yet purposeful, it communicates confidence without arrogance. The smallest nonverbal details, your posture, your breathing rhythm, the steadiness of your gaze, transmit volumes about your inner state. A calm presence instantly reassures others because it communicates that you are grounded and people naturally trust those who appear emotionally stable. They feel anchored in your steadiness. Empathy also accelerates trust faster than logic ever could. When someone feels seen, they open up. When they feel judged, they retreat. Empathy is not about agreeing with everything a person says. It's about showing that you understand their perspective. It means listening without preparing your response, acknowledging their feelings without minimizing them. Even a brief expression of empathy, "That must have been difficult," or "I understand why you'd feel that way," creates a bridge between two minds. That bridge becomes the foundation for respect and safety. The moment people feel emotionally understood, they start to trust. Honesty, when expressed with tact and care, strengthens trust instantly. Many try to maintain relationships by avoiding discomfort, but truth delivered with compassion deepens connection. People respect those who speak clearly even when it's difficult, as long as it's done with good intent. Honesty without empathy feels harsh. Empathy without honesty feels empty. The balance between the two forms integrity. When you communicate truthfully, yet gently, you create a reputation of dependability. People learn that your words can be trusted because they reflect reality rather than convenience. Building trust also depends on the ability to keep confidences. When someone shares something personal, they are handing you emotional currency. How you handle it determines whether trust strengthens or dissolves. Protecting another's privacy shows maturity and honor. Once people know that what they share with you remains safe, they naturally open more. Gossip, exaggeration, or sharing without consent destroys trust faster than anything else. Integrity in speech, speaking truth but guarding what is sacred, creates a powerful aura of respect. Trust can also be built instantly through humility. When people sense that you are not trying to impress or dominate, they feel at ease. Arrogance repels because it carries the scent of insecurity. Humility attracts because it carries the scent of insecurity. Humility attracts because it reflects quiet confidence. The humble communicator doesn't need to prove value. Their authenticity speaks for itself. They ask questions, invite input, and show appreciation for others' perspectives. This humility turns interactions into partnerships instead of hierarchies, creating an atmosphere where trust grows naturally. The quickest way to destroy trust is through pretense. Pretending to care, pretending to listen, or pretending to know something you don't will always be detected. Genuine interest cannot be faked. It shows in the eyes, the tone, the rhythm of engagement. When you truly care about the person you're speaking with, your energy changes. You lean in slightly. You listen longer. You respond thoughtfully. The listener feels it. Humans are remarkably perceptive when it comes to sincerity. Authentic curiosity builds trust faster than any scripted charm. To cultivate trust continuously, match your actions to your promises. Words are commitments in motion. When they fail to manifest, credibility evaporates. If you say you will do something, do it, especially when no one is watching. If you cannot communicate clearly and take responsibility, accountability demonstrates strength, not weakness. People may forgive mistakes, but they rarely forget dishonesty. Integrity is the language of trust. It speaks even when you remain silent. Calmness under pressure also generates immediate trust. When others see that you remain composed during tension, they instinctively turn toward you for guidance. Emotional steadiness communicates safety. Chaos spreads quickly in human interaction, but so does calm. When your demeanor remains centered despite challenge, you become a source of grounding. This reliability creates instant credibility, especially in high-stakes situations. Trust thrives where people feel emotionally secure. Trust is also strengthened through small gestures of respect. Simple acts, remembering someone's name, maintaining eye contact, offering genuine gratitude, communicate care. Respect is the invisible currency of trust. It shows that you value others not for what they can give, but for who they are. When people feel respected, they instinctively reciprocate. Every gesture, no matter how subtle, sends a message: I see you and you matter. Over time, these moments accumulate into deep trust. An often overlooked aspect of trust building is self-trust. If you don't believe in your own integrity, no one else will. The confidence that others feel around you comes from the consistency you hold within yourself. Self-trust grows from keeping personal promises, doing what you say, even privately. When your words and actions align internally, your presence radiates certainty. People may not know why, but they sense they can depend on you. That quiet certainty builds credibility faster than grand declarations ever could. In communication, trust is the ultimate shortcut to influence. Without it, persuasion feels manipulative. With it, cooperation becomes effortless. Building instant trust is not about technique. It's about alignment between intention and expression. It's about meaning what you say and saying what you mean. When every part of you, your voice, your energy, your behavior, moves in harmony, trust happens spontaneously. In the end, trust is not a strategy. It's a way of being. It's the discipline of honesty, the strength of presence, and the humility of sincerity. When people sense these qualities, they relax, they lean in, they listen, they remember you as someone who doesn't just talk, but someone who can be counted on. To build instant trust is to embody reliability in every gesture, every tone, every silence. It is to become a presence of truth in a world of noise. And that presence, steady, genuine, and clear, is the foundation of every powerful communicator. Number 6, craft persuasive stories. Every powerful communicator understands that logic may convince the mind, but story moves the heart. Facts inform, but stories transform. A persuasive story doesn't just speak, it breathes, feels, and carries emotion that the listener can live through. Storytelling is the bridge between intellect and emotion, reason and resonance. It is not about entertainment, it is about connection. When you craft a persuasive story, you invite others to step into an experience that changes how they see themselves and the world. That's the essence of true influence, moving people not by pressure, but by participation and meaning. At the center of every persuasive story lies emotional truth. People remember how something made them feel long after they've forgotten what was said. A story is persuasive when it awakens feeling, curiosity, hope, fear, pride, or empathy. To tell such a story, you must understand the emotional pulse of your audience. Speak to what matters to them, not to what fascinates you. The listener must see a reflection of their own desires, struggles, and triumphs within your narrative. That sense of familiarity, of being understood, draws them closer. Persuasion begins not when people hear your story, but when they recognize themselves inside it. Crafting persuasive stories starts with clarity of message. Before shaping words, define what truth you want your story to deliver. A powerful story is not a collection of random details. It's a vessel carrying one clear idea to its destination. Ask yourself what transformation you want your audience to experience. Every element, the characters, conflict, tone, and resolution, should point toward that purpose. Without clarity, even a vivid story becomes noise. With clarity, even a simple story becomes unforgettable. Precision of message gives meaning to every image, and meaning is what moves the human heart. Every story requires tension, for persuasion lives in contrast. Without challenge, there is no growth. Without struggle, there is no victory. A persuasive story must reveal a problem that feels real and relatable. It might be a moment of doubt, a test of courage, or a confrontation with limitation. Through tension, the listener experiences emotional motion. They begin to feel what it's like to be in that moment. As the story unfolds, they subconsciously ask, how will this be resolved? That curiosity keeps them engaged. When resolution finally comes, it delivers satisfaction and clarity, both emotional and intellectual. The human brain craves completion, and stories that deliver it remain etched in memory. Authenticity is the foundation of a persuasive story. Even the most imaginative tales must carry a core of truth. Listeners can sense when something feels forced or artificial. Authentic stories, by contrast, resonate because they are grounded in real emotion, even if the events themselves are symbolic. Speak from lived experience or from an understanding so deep that it feels lived. Share imperfection. Let your story breathe with honesty, for vulnerability makes it believable. When people sense truth behind your words, they trust not just the story, but sensory detail transforms storytelling from communication into experience. To persuade effectively, paint with texture, sound, and imagery. Instead of saying, "It was a difficult day," describe the air, the weight of silence, the rhythm of footsteps, the chill in the voice. These small, tangible details pull the listener out of their head and into your world. When they can see, hear, or feel what you describe, they don't just understand, they live the story. The more vivid the sensory detail, the deeper the emotional immersion, and the stronger the persuasive impact. But persuasion through story isn't manipulation, it's guidance. It's offering someone a way to see truth from a different angle. The storyteller's role is not to force belief, but to illuminate it. The goal is not to overwhelm the listener's logic, but to engage their imagination. A great story doesn't tell people what to think. It allows them to reach the conclusion themselves. This autonomy strengthens belief, because what we discover on our own feels more authentic than what we are told. Persuasion built on respect lasts longer than persuasion built on pressure. Rhythm and pacing also shape the power of your story. Like music, storytelling follows a pulse, a moment of intensity followed by silence, a sudden revelation after calm. All these shifts keep attention alive. Too fast, and your message feels rushed. Too slow, and it loses energy. The balance between movement and pause allows emotion to build naturally. A persuasive communicator understands how to let words breathe. Silence is not absence, it is emphasis. In those brief moments of stillness, meaning sinks in. The audience needs space to feel before they can believe. The most persuasive stories are often the simplest. Complexity may impress, but simplicity moves. The human mind connects best with clear, straightforward arcs: beginning, conflict, resolution. When your message is buried beneath too many layers, it loses power. Keep only what strengthens the core idea. Remove everything that distracts. A story stripped to its essence becomes timeless. It can be remembered, retold, and relived. That is the mark of persuasion. It travels beyond your voice into the voices of others. A persuasive story also requires contrast between failure and redemption. People trust what feels real, and reality always includes imperfection. If your story only highlights success, it feels distant. But when you reveal the missteps, the doubts, the resilience required to rise again, it becomes relatable. Listeners don't just admire the hero, they root for them because they felt the same struggle. This emotional alignment is what makes persuasion powerful. It's not about the hero's perfection, it's about their perseverance. Show transformation, and you'll show truth. Great storytelling demands emotional control. You must feel the story without being consumed by it. Over-exaggeration weakens credibility. Under-expression dulls impact. The goal is balance, emotion strong enough to engage, steady enough to trust. Your tone should reflect conviction, not desperation. Speak as though the truth of your story is self-evident, needing no defense. Confidence in delivery invites confidence in belief. The listener mirrors your energy when you speak with calm passion. They feel it as genuine conviction. To craft a persuasive story, you must listen deeply to human nature. Observe how people respond to uncertainty, how they hope, how they fear loss, how they crave belonging. Every person wants to be understood, and every story that satisfies that desire will be persuasive. We are emotional beings who justify decisions with logic. The story touches the heart first, and reason arrives later to defend what feeling already accepted. That's why storytelling is the oldest and most enduring form of influence. Incorporate moral weight into your story, not through preaching, but through purpose. The listener should walk away not just entertained, but enlightened. The story must hold meaning that lingers after the words fade. That's what separates empty narratives from transformative ones. When people feel that your story carries wisdom, that it elevates them, they not only remember it, they carry it forward. Persuasion becomes legacy when the message transcends the moment. The power of a story also depends on the storyteller's intention. If your aim is self-promotion, people feel it. If your goal is service, to share something that uplifts or awakens, they sense that too. Energy speaks louder than sentence. A persuasive story emerges from pure intention, to share truth, to connect, to inspire growth. When your motive aligns with sincerity, persuasion requires no force. It happens quietly, naturally, as a side effect of authenticity. A truly persuasive story creates transformation without demand. It shifts perception without confrontation. It builds bridges instead of walls. People do not resist stories. They open to them. The mind may argue with facts, but it surrenders to experience. A story turns communication into revelation. It makes the abstract tangible, the distant personal, the forgotten unforgettable. That is the silent magic of storytelling. It awakens emotion, and through emotion, it shapes thought. To craft persuasive stories is to become a student of humanity. It's to understand what moves the human spirit, what gives it courage, and what softens its defenses. When your story speaks to that inner place, persuasion ceases to be effort. It becomes resonant. The listener doesn't feel persuaded. They feel understood. And when people feel understood, they change willingly. That is the art and power of the persuasive storyteller, to move hearts, shift minds, and leave behind words that live long after the voice has faded. Number 7. Control conversation flow. The art of controlling a conversation is not about dominance or manipulation. It is about guiding the rhythm of communication with grace and awareness. Conversation is energy in motion, words flowing between minds, ideas shaping one another, emotions blending and separating like currents in a river. To control its flow is to know when to speak, when to pause, when to lead, and when to yield. The one who masters this rhythm does not impose authority but creates harmony. True conversational control is the balance between expression and understanding, between influence and openness. It is the skill that turns ordinary talk into powerful connection. Every conversation carries a current of intention. Some enter a dialogue seeking to prove, others to learn, others simply to be heard. When you become aware of these invisible motives, both yours and the other person's, you begin to sense where the current is heading. Awareness is the first step toward control. If you walk into a conversation without clarity of purpose, you become a passenger, drifting with the flow of another's energy. But if you know why you are engaging, whether to build trust, share perspective, or reach agreement, you hold the rudder. Intent directs energy, and energy shapes outcome. Controlling the flow begins with emotional composure. People often lose control of conversations, not because of lack of words, but because of excess emotion. The moment frustration, defensiveness, or impatience takes over, clarity dissolves. To steer a discussion effectively, you must remain centered, even when emotions rise. Calmness slows time within dialogue. It gives you space to respond rather than react. When others speak in haste, your stillness becomes power. The composed communicator can redirect tension with a single grounded sentence, while the reactive one loses influence with a single impulsive remark. Control starts within before it can manifest outward. Listening is one of the most powerful tools of conversational control. The common belief is that control lies in speaking, but in truth, it lies in the ability to create space for others to reveal themselves. When people feel deeply listened to, they relax their guard, and that relaxation gives you the opportunity to shape the direction of what follows. Active listening is not silent waiting. It's attentive engagement. It's reading tone, catching pauses, and observing what's not being said. Once you understand the underlying feeling behind the words, you can guide the next part of the conversation with precision. Listening gives you the map. Speaking gives you the steering. Another key to mastering flow is the power of strategic questioning. Questions are invisible reins in dialogue. They direct without dictating. The right question can dissolve tension, clarify confusion, or shift focus entirely. Closed questions control the pace by containing the answer. Open questions expand the dialogue and invite deeper exploration. When you sense a conversation drifting off track, a well-placed question brings it back into alignment. For example, asking what outcome would feel fair to you, or what's the main concern behind that point, gently refocuses the discussion without confrontation. The skilled communicator knows that questions are control disguised as curiosity. Control also depends on pacing. The speed of your words and the rhythm of your tone influence how others respond. Fast speech energizes and excites, but too much speed can overwhelm or seem aggressive. Slow speech calms and builds authority, but too much slowness can appear detached. The goal is to adapt your pace to the emotional temperature of the conversation. If the other person grows agitated, lower your tone, slow your speech, and allow silence to enter. If they withdraw, use warmth and gentle animation to draw them out. Conversational control is not about forcing pace. It's about matching rhythm until harmony appears. Nonverbal communication holds immense power in shaping conversational direction. Subtle gestures, posture, and facial expressions often dictate emotional flow more than words. A steady gaze conveys confidence. A nod signals understanding. An open posture invites honesty. When your body language radiates calm attentiveness, others instinctively adjust theirs to match. Energy mirrors energy. If you stay composed, measured, and alert, the conversation adopts that tone. But if your body reflects agitation, the flow becomes turbulent. Nonverbal steadiness becomes the silent anchor that keeps dialogue from drifting into chaos. To control conversation flow, timing is everything. Many people lose influence because they rush to fill silence or respond prematurely. Silence, when used consciously, is not weakness. It's leverage. A brief pause after a statement allows your words to settle. It gives weight to meaning. It invites reflection rather than reaction. Similarly, pausing before replying to someone else signals thoughtfulness and confidence. You are not racing to prove your point. You are considering theirs. This subtle pacing communicates control more powerfully than any display of verbal dominance. Emotional attunement strengthens control because it allows you to sense shifts in mood before they become visible. Every conversation is a dance of feelings: interest, hesitation, irritation, curiosity. The more you can read these signals, the more gracefully you can respond. If you notice tension, acknowledge it rather than ignoring it. If excitement rises, channel it toward progress rather than distraction. When people feel emotionally understood, they are more likely to follow your lead. Control is never about force. It's about alignment. You align emotions first, then guide direction naturally. One of the most overlooked techniques of conversational control is summarizing. When discussions become messy or heated, summarizing resets clarity. It shows that you've listened and simultaneously reestablishes focus. Phrases like "so," "what we're really saying is," or "it sounds like the main point is," help reorganize the flow without sounding authoritarian. It's a gentle way of reclaiming structure. People rarely resist summaries because they feel collaborative rather than corrective. Through summarizing, you take control by clarifying, not commanding. Another critical aspect of maintaining control is boundary awareness. Skilled communicators know where a conversation should go and where it shouldn't. Some topics, tones, or behaviors can derail progress entirely. Setting boundaries with grace maintains authority without confrontation. Statements like "I'd like to focus on finding a solution rather than assigning blame" redirect energy constructively. Boundaries protect respect, and respect preserves influence. When people sense that you can remain firm without hostility, they follow your guidance willingly. Influence in conversation also comes from intention transitions. How you shift topics or guide from one point to another determines whether communication feels smooth or abrupt. A good transition acknowledges what has been said before moving forward. That's an important point, and it connects to something I've been thinking about. This subtle bridging keeps the flow intact while steering direction. Abrupt changes feel controlling. Seamless transitions feel natural. The listener stays engaged without realizing they've been guided. Maintaining control also requires awareness of ego. The moment conversation becomes a battlefield of pride, flow disintegrates. The wise communicator doesn't seek to win but to understand. Detaching from the need to be right keeps you flexible and focused on purpose. Control based on ego collapses under resistance. Control based on clarity endures. When your goal is resolution rather than validation, others sense your sincerity. That sincerity becomes its own form of power. Quiet, stable, and deeply persuasive. Adaptability is essential because every conversation is alive, changing moment by moment. Rigid scripts destroy flow, while flexibility sustains it. You must read the room, sense the shifts, and pivot smoothly. If the other person becomes defensive, soften your tone. If they seem disengaged, introduce energy. The ability to adjust mid-conversation without losing composure is what separates the skilled communicator from the ordinary one. Control is not rigidity. It is rhythm with awareness. Confidence underpins every form of conversational control. When your voice carries certainty, others instinctively listen. Confidence doesn't mean arrogance. It means stability. Speak with conviction, but also with openness to new information. Confidence without humility feels oppressive, but confidence with curiosity feels inspiring. When people feel that your leadership in conversation stems from genuine clarity, not ego, they allow you to guide them. That trust gives you control not through demand, but through respect. Every conversation you engage in is an exchange of influence. You are either leading its direction or being led by it. The communicator who understands flow sees dialogue as a living organism, something that breathes, shifts, and evolves. To control it is to remain aware at all times, grounded in intention, fluent in silence, and attuned to emotional rhythm. Mastering this flow doesn't make you overpowering, it makes you magnetic. People naturally follow those who can navigate tension with ease and maintain calm in chaos. Ultimately, controlling conversation flow is the discipline of balance. It's guiding without dictating, influencing without overpowering, responding without reacting. It's about creating a shared rhythm where understanding can thrive. When you can hold that rhythm with grace, aware, composed, and sincere, you turn every conversation into a space of clarity and impact. That mastery doesn't just change how people hear you, it changes how they feel around you. You become a communicator who moves words with purpose, energy with direction, and moments with meaning. And in that mastery, you discover that control is not about holding power. It's about holding peace while guiding others toward. Number 8, speak with authority. Speaking with authority has nothing to do with loudness or intimidation. It comes from alignment between knowledge, conviction, and calm confidence. True authority is quiet, yet unshakable. It doesn't need to demand attention because it naturally commands it. People listen not because they are forced to, but because something in your tone, posture, and presence communicates certainty. When you speak with authority, every word carries weight because it emerges from understanding, not performance. It is a reflection of inner order expressed through verbal clarity. To develop this kind of authority, one must master self-respect, composure, and emotional discipline, for the strength of one's voice is always the echo of one's inner state. The first foundation of authority is clarity. You cannot speak powerfully about what you do not truly understand. Before words can influence others, they must first make sense to you. Clarity begins with knowing your message, what you believe, what you stand for, and what you intend to communicate. People feel uncertain speakers because uncertainty leaks through tone, phrasing, and body language. When you speak from a place of mental fog, your words lose their edge. But when you refine your thoughts, strip them of excess, and speak from organized conviction, you naturally project credibility. Authority is the voice of clarity made audible. Confidence, however, must be rooted in truth. Empty confidence collapses the moment it meets challenge. True authority is sustained by authenticity, an unforced alignment between your beliefs, your words, and your actions. People sense when a speaker believes what they say. That conviction cannot be faked because it radiates through body language and tone. Speaking with authority means carrying an energy of certainty without arrogance. It's the difference between saying something to impress and saying something because it matters. Authentic authority invites trust because it is grounded in integrity rather than performance. The tone of authority is steady, not sharp. Many mistake dominance for strength, yet real power speaks softly because it doesn't fear being unheard. It knows that truth doesn't need to shout to be recognized. A calm, measured tone conveys more conviction than aggression ever could. When your voice remains even and composed, people subconsciously associate it with control and intelligence. You become a source of stability in the room, and stability commands attention. Speaking too fast signals anxiety. Speaking too loud suggests insecurity, but speaking deliberately shows certainty. Authority is not about volume, it's about resonance. To speak with authority, presence must accompany your words. Presence is the invisible magnet that draws people toward you before you even speak. It's the calm energy of someone fully engaged in the moment, eyes focused, posture balanced, energy grounded. You can't fake presence, it's cultivated through mindfulness and attention. When you are fully there, people feel it. They stop glancing around. They listen. Presence communicates respect both for yourself and for your audience. It tells others that you are not distracted, not seeking validation, but anchored in purpose. That stillness of presence turns ordinary communication into knowledge. Also fuels authority. You cannot speak powerfully about subjects you have not mastered. Preparation breeds confidence, and confidence breeds control. The more deeply you understand your material, the less you need to rely on memorization. Knowledge frees you to express ideas fluidly rather than rigidly. When you know your subject, you can adapt, respond, and simplify with ease. Authority thrives on comprehension. It is not the memorized script, but the lived experience behind the words. Those who study deeply and reflect quietly speak with natural assurance because their knowledge is not borrowed, it is earned. A crucial aspect of speaking with authority is emotional regulation. The moment you allow irritation, fear, or defensiveness to enter your voice, your authority weakens. Emotional steadiness signals mastery of self. People trust those who can stay calm when others lose composure. That calmness is not the absence of feeling. It is the discipline of expression. It shows that you are guided by reason, not reaction. When you maintain serenity in speech, even disagreement feels respectful. Authority doesn't seek to overpower emotion. It channels it with control and purpose. Language shapes perception, and the words you choose determine how authority is conveyed. Use language that is direct, simple, and strong. Avoid unnecessary fillers or excessive qualifiers. They dilute impact. Phrases like "I think" or "maybe" weaken your stance, while statements such as "I believe" or "this means" project conviction. Strong language does not mean harshness. It means precision. Each sentence should feel deliberate, like a brick placed with intention. When your words are clean and exact, people stop questioning whether you know, they feel that you do. Authority thrives in linguistic discipline. Authority is also a matter of rhythm. Every great speaker understands the power of pacing, the rise and fall of tone, the use of silence, the pause before an important point. Silence, used intentionally, magnifies meaning. It gives the listener space to absorb your words. Rushing to fill every gap signals nervousness, while a calm pause radiates confidence. The moments between your words often speak louder than the words themselves. They create suspense, reflection, and respect. Silence turns speech into music, and rhythm transforms authority into art. Nonverbal communication amplifies verbal authority. Posture that is upright yet relaxed signals balance. Eye contact communicates honesty and confidence. Controlled gestures emphasize points without distraction. The body often speaks before the voice, so when both align, influence multiplies. A speaker who stands tall, moves with intention, and maintains composure creates an aura of respect without needing to demand it. Nonverbal alignment between confidence and calm turns presence into persuasion. People may forget what you said, but they will remember how your presence made them feel steady, secure, and attentive. Authority also grows through humility. Paradoxically, the more one tries to appear powerful, the less convincing they become. Humility grounds authority in humanity. When you acknowledge uncertainty, give credit, or admit mistakes, you strengthen credibility rather than weaken it. People respect those who balance strength with modesty. Arrogance repels because it signals insecurity, while humility attracts because it reveals wisdom. A speaker who can say, "Here's what I know, and here's what I'm still learning," commands trust, because that honesty feels real. True authority is never inflated. It's authentic, self-assured, and quietly confident. To speak with authority also means understanding timing. When you know when to speak and when to remain silent, your words carry more gravity. The person who feels compelled to fill every pause loses impact. Authority exists in restraint, the willingness to wait until the right moment before contributing. This timing shows discipline and emotional maturity. When you finally speak, your audience listens, because they've learned that your words always serve purpose. Power grows in proportion to patience. Another essential aspect of authoritative speech is intention. Every sentence should have direction. Don't speak merely to participate. Speak to clarify, to uplift, to guide, or to resolve. People sense when your words have purpose. They trust speakers who contribute meaning rather than noise. Intention sharpens communication. It gives your speech moral weight. When your motive is clear and your message is sincere, authority follows naturally. It doesn't have to be demanded. It is earned through alignment between motive and message. Experience deepens authority more than theory ever could. Lived lessons carry a texture that abstract ideas lack. When you speak from what you've endured, people feel the truth behind your words. They sense authenticity in your tone. Authority is not just intellectual. It's emotional resonance born from experience. Those who have faced challenge, reflected deeply, and emerged wiser carry a quiet strength that no training can imitate. Their words carry the weight of having been tested, and that weight becomes the foundation of influence. Authentic authority also depends on consistency. If your words say one thing and your actions another, your credibility dissolves. Authority is maintained through integrity over time, showing up, keeping promises, remaining dependable. People remember patterns more than moments. When your behavior consistently aligns with your message, you become someone whose voice carries weight even in silence. Authority, therefore, is not a momentary act, but a long-term reputation built through daily discipline. To speak with authority means to respect both the listener and the truth. It is not about overpowering others, but about guiding them toward understanding. When you respect your audience's intelligence, you elevate them rather than condescend. When you respect truth, you protect your credibility. People trust those who speak from honesty, not manipulation. Authority without integrity is noise. Authority with truth is influence. In the end, speaking with authority is an inner practice before it becomes an outer skill. It is the art of knowing yourself so deeply that your words no longer seek approval. They express conviction. It is the discipline of steady composure, the clarity of thought, and the courage to communicate truth even when it's uncomfortable. True authority doesn't need to prove. It simply is. When you embody knowledge, sincerity, and calm power, your words gain a force that no technique can replicate. They resonate because they come from alignment. And in that alignment lies the timeless voice of authority. Quiet, confident, and unforgettable. Number 9. Influence through empathy. Influence that lasts does not come from clever arguments or forceful persuasion. It comes from empathy. The ability to understand, feel, and respond to the emotions of others with genuine care gives a person more influence than authority ever could. Empathy allows words to reach beyond intellect and touch the inner world of another person. It bridges differences, dissolves defensiveness, and builds a shared sense of humanity that logic alone can never achieve. When empathy becomes the foundation of your communication, you no longer try to win conversations. You aim to connect, and through connection you begin to shape hearts and minds in ways that endure. To influence through empathy, one must first understand that every individual carries unseen weight. People are not defined by what they show on the surface, but by the silent stories within, the fears they hide, the hopes they guard, and the insecurities that guide their reactions. When you recognize this truth, judgment gives way to curiosity. You stop reacting to behavior and start listening to the emotion beneath it. An empathetic communicator doesn't seek to correct others immediately. They seek to understand them first. This approach changes everything because influence begins where understanding begins. True empathy is not pity or indulgence. It is disciplined awareness. It demands patience and presence. It requires that you quiet your own assumptions long enough to feel what another person might be feeling. Most people listen to reply. Empathetic people listen to receive. They make others feel seen, not analyzed. This simple yet powerful act of listening without interruption transforms relationships. It tells the other person, "You matter enough for me to give you my full attention." When people feel understood, they naturally become more open to understanding you. Empathy, therefore, is not submission. It is strategy grounded in respect. The key to influencing through empathy lies in emotional attunement. This means being sensitive to tone, body language, and subtle shifts in energy. Words tell one story, but emotions tell another. When you sense the tension behind a polite smile or the hesitation in a confident voice, you gain access to truth beyond language. This awareness allows you to adapt your communication, softening when someone feels threatened, pausing when they seem overwhelmed, or reinforcing trust when they appear uncertain. By attuning to emotion, you don't manipulate, you harmonize. You adjust your approach so the message can be received without resistance. Empathy also reshapes how you express yourself. It teaches you to use words that build rather than bruise. When your intention is to uplift rather than dominate, your communication carries a warmth that disarms defensiveness. Instead of saying, "You're wrong," an empathetic communicator might say, "I see where you're coming from, but here's another way to look at it." That small shift changes the energy of the interaction. It respects the listener's dignity while guiding them toward new understanding. Influence thrives in such spaces of emotional safety. People rarely change their minds because they are forced to. They change because they feel understood. Influence through empathy also requires humility. To truly connect, one must let go of the need to always be right. Empathy is not about proving superiority. It's about creating common ground. When you approach others with humility, you invite collaboration instead of conflict. You communicate with the awareness that everyone carries a fragment of truth. By acknowledging that, you make your message more relatable and less confrontational. Humility strengthens credibility because it signals authenticity. People follow those who make them feel valued, not those who make them feel small. Empathy expands influence because it builds emotional trust. Trust is the invisible currency of communication. It determines whether your words will be accepted or ignored. When someone senses genuine care behind your speech, they open themselves to your influence willingly. Trust cannot be demanded. It must be earned through consistent empathy. It's built over time through reliability, understanding, and honesty. When your words consistently align with compassion, people begin to see you as someone safe to confide in, to follow, and to believe. A major aspect of empathetic influence lies in emotional reflection. When you reflect the emotions of those around you, not by imitation but by acknowledgement, you create resonance. For instance, when someone expresses frustration, instead of dismissing it, you might respond, "That sounds like it's been really exhausting for you." Such responses validate feelings without judgment. Validation is one of the most powerful tools of empathy because it tells people their emotions are legitimate. Once validated, emotions lose their intensity, and reason can re-enter the conversation. This is how empathy transforms tension into cooperation. Empathy also strengthens leadership. A leader who understands emotions can guide people more effectively than one who merely dictates tasks. When a leader recognizes the silent struggles of their team, morale rises, loyalty deepens, and productivity follows naturally. People do not give their best to those who command. They give their best to those who care. Empathetic leaders know that influence is earned through compassion, not control. They balance firmness with kindness, direction with understanding. This kind of leadership shapes not only outcomes but also cultures, environments where communication is rooted in respect and shared purpose. In persuasive communication, empathy acts as the invisible hand that guides tone, timing, and approach. It tells you when to push and when to pause. It helps you gauge whether the listener is ready to hear your message or needs reassurance first. Without empathy, even the best arguments fall flat because they fail to meet people where they are. Persuasion without empathy feels manipulative. Persuasion with empathy feels collaborative. When people feel that your intentions are sincere, they stop resisting and start engaging. Influence, then, becomes effortless because it flows from alignment rather than opposition. Empathy also refines language. It teaches you to choose words that resonate emotionally rather than just intellectually. Instead of focusing solely on logic, you begin to frame ideas in ways that appeal to shared human experiences. You might replace abstract phrases with sensory or emotional language that evokes feeling. Saying, "Imagine the relief of finally being understood," reaches deeper than it's important to communicate clearly. Empathy gives your language texture. It transforms ideas into experiences. That emotional resonance is what lingers long after the conversation ends. To influence through empathy, one must practice emotional neutrality. It's easy to absorb other people's emotions to the point of losing composure, but empathy without boundaries turns into exhaustion. True empathetic influence requires the ability to feel deeply without being consumed. It's the art of remaining grounded while connecting with another's emotions. When you stay calm in the presence of frustration, compassionate in the face of anger, and patient during confusion, your steadiness becomes the anchor others lean on. Influence grows in proportion to emotional control. Listening remains the cornerstone of empathetic influence. Deep listening is not merely hearing. It is the act of stepping into another person's emotional space. It requires full attention, absence of distraction, and genuine curiosity. You're not waiting for your turn to speak. You're seeking to understand. People who feel heard tend to lower their defenses and reciprocate openness. Through listening, you not only gather information but also build rapport. Each moment of true listening reinforces a silent message. You are valued here. And that feeling becomes the foundation of influence, stronger than any argument could produce. Empathy also transcends words. Sometimes, influence emerges through simple gestures, a steady gaze, a nod of understanding, a pause that allows silence to breathe. When someone feels emotionally seen through your presence alone, communication becomes effortless. These nonverbal signals create emotional synchronization, a subtle alignment that deepens trust. When people feel that you get them without needing to explain everything, your influence deepens to a subconscious level. You become not just someone who speaks well, but someone who feels right to follow. Empathetic influence has immense power in conflict resolution. When tension arises, empathy diffuses it by addressing emotion before logic. Instead of escalating disagreement, an empathetic communicator slows the pace, acknowledges feelings, and restores calm, saying, "I can see this issue means a lot to you," deactivates defensiveness more effectively than arguing facts. Once emotions cool, reasoning can resume. Empathy doesn't avoid conflict. It transforms it from confrontation into collaboration. Through empathy, you turn opposition into partnership. Over time, empathy cultivates a reputation of credibility and warmth. People remember how you make them feel far more than what you say. If they associate your presence with safety, understanding, and sincerity, they will seek your input naturally. Your influence will expand, not because you chase it, but because you embody it. Influence through empathy grows organically. It spreads through trust, consistency, and kindness. To embody empathetic influence fully, One must balance heart with wisdom. Empathy without direction can drift into sentimentality, but empathy guided by purpose becomes transformative. The goal is not to absorb everyone's emotions, but to use understanding as a tool for positive impact. You sense the pain, recognize the need, and respond with clarity. You feel deeply, yet act decisively. That balance is the mark of emotional mastery, the ability to connect without losing your center. Ultimately, influence through empathy is an act of humanity. It is the recognition that every person, no matter how different, longs to be understood. When you meet that need sincerely, barriers dissolve and influence flourishes. It is not about speaking louder, but about listening deeper. It's about replacing judgment with understanding, impatience with curiosity, and ego with compassion. Influence built on empathy doesn't fade when the conversation ends. It leaves an imprint that endures in memory and emotion. When empathy becomes the heart of your communication, your voice no longer just informs, it transforms. Number 10. Leave lasting impact. Leaving a lasting impact is not about grand speeches or perfect words. It's about the way your presence, values, and actions imprint themselves on the minds and hearts of others long after you're gone. True impact is not built in a moment of brilliance, but through the quiet accumulation of intention, integrity, and emotional resonance. When you speak, your words may fade, but the feeling you create lingers. That feeling, whether of hope, clarity, courage, or calm, is what people remember most. To leave a lasting impact, you must understand that communication is not merely about transferring information. It is about awakening something within another person that continues to live long after the sound of your voice has disappeared. The beginning of true impact lies in purpose. Every word, every gesture, every message must arise from a deeper sense of meaning. People can sense when your communication serves something larger than ego. A voice that speaks for self-gain is quickly forgotten, but one that speaks to uplift, to guide, or to enlighten remains in memory. When your purpose is clear, your influence becomes timeless. You begin to communicate from conviction rather than convenience. That conviction gives your words gravity. It turns ordinary sentences into seeds that take root in the minds of others. To create enduring impact, authenticity must be the foundation. You cannot inspire others by pretending to be someone you're not. People are drawn to what feels real. When you speak with honesty, vulnerability, and sincerity, your message carries emotional weight. Authenticity creates trust, and trust gives your words permission to enter the deeper layers of the listener's mind. Even when your ideas are simple, their authenticity gives them power. Impact doesn't come from sophistication. It comes from sincerity. The truth spoken with heart will always outlast words crafted for approval. Another essential element of lasting impact is emotional resonance. Facts are forgotten, but feelings endure. When people recall an interaction, they rarely remember exact phrases. They remember how those phrases made them feel. To reach this level of connection, you must learn to speak to the heart as much as to the intellect. Use emotion not as manipulation, but as illumination. Let your tone carry warmth, your pauses convey depth, and your energy express care. When communication feels alive with emotion, it pierces through logic and reaches the soul. That's where impact begins to settle, quietly shaping the listener's perspective over time. To leave a mark that endures, clarity must be your ally. Complexity might impress, but simplicity influences. People remember ideas that are easy to grasp and emotionally meaningful. Clarity is not just about choosing the right words. It's about removing the unnecessary so that what remains shines with unmistakable truth. When you communicate clearly, your ideas become portable. Others can carry them, repeat them, and live by them. This is how messages outlive moments. They transform from thoughts into guiding principles. The simpler the truth, the deeper its root. Lasting impact also grows from consistency. Influence that endures is built through alignment between words and actions. People listen closely to those who live what they speak. When your behavior reinforces your message, credibility deepens. Over time, consistency becomes your signature. It tells others that your convictions are not temporary moods, but enduring values. The steady rhythm of integrity imprints itself in people's trust. Long after your words are forgotten, your example remains. The most powerful communication is not spoken, it is demonstrated. To make your words unforgettable, speak to the universal human experience. Impact multiplies when your message touches something that everyone recognizes: love, struggle, hope, loss, resilience, purpose. When people see themselves reflected in your words, they form a connection that transcends background and circumstance. You remind them of their own humanity, and in doing so, you bind your message to their memory. People rarely remember a speech because it was perfect. They remember it because it made them feel understood. Every impactful communicator knows the power of silence. It is often in the pauses between words that meaning settles. Silence gives the listener time to reflect, to internalize, and to feel. Rushing through words weakens their gravity, while allowing space after important thoughts amplifies their resonance. Silence is where your message stops being yours and becomes theirs. It's in that quiet moment that ideas begin to sink in, shaping the inner dialogue of those who heard you. The great communicators understand that what's unsaid often speaks loudest. Empathy, too, plays a vital role in leaving a mark that endures. When people feel that you genuinely understand their emotions and perspectives, your message penetrates deeply. Empathy transforms communication from a transaction into a connection. It tells the listener, "I see you," and in that acknowledgement, they open themselves to influence. Impact that lasts is never one-sided. It's born from a shared emotional field. The more you understand the heart of your listener, the more profoundly your words can touch it. Another ingredient of enduring influence is storytelling. A well-told story bypasses resistance and anchors lessons in memory. Stories translate abstract ideas into emotional experiences. They give your message shape, color, and rhythm. When you use story, you are not just speaking, you are showing. You allow the listener to visualize, to feel, and to walk through the journey with you. A story that carries truth becomes a vessel of transformation. Long after details fade, the emotion of the story remains, replaying quietly in the listener's mind whenever life mirrors its message. To leave a lasting impact, one must also master intention in every interaction. Each conversation holds potential to uplift or diminish, to inspire or to dull. Impactful communicators treat even casual exchanges as opportunities to plant meaning. They choose their words carefully, not out of self-consciousness, but out of respect for their effect. A kind word to a stranger, an encouraging phrase to a colleague, a thoughtful silence in a heated moment. These small acts ripple far beyond the moment. Legacy is not built in speeches, but in consistent moments of mindful communication. Confidence without ego is another element of lasting influence. People remember those who carry assurance without arrogance. When you speak with confidence grounded in humility, your authority feels inviting rather than intimidating. The calm assurance of someone who knows yet continues to listen leaves a stronger mark than loud self-assertion. Confidence balanced with grace gives your communication an elegance that endures. It leaves the listener both moved and respected. To make your impact lasting, focus on transformation, not transaction. The goal is not to convince someone for the moment, but to spark a thought or feeling that continues to grow long after the conversation ends. You plant ideas like seeds, knowing they may take root quietly over time. Sometimes people won't even realize the source of their inspiration, but the shift will remain. Impact is measured not by applause, but by the invisible influence your words have on someone's choices, courage, or perspective in the future. Authentic emotion reinforces memory. When you speak from genuine feeling, whether compassion, conviction, or gratitude, people sense it immediately. Emotion gives life to meaning. A heartfelt tone imprints itself deeper than polished phrasing ever could. The human heart responds not to perfection, but to sincerity. When your words come from lived truth, they become unforgettable because they carry emotional reality. Legacy also depends on how you leave people feeling about themselves, not about you. The greatest communicators make others feel capable, valued, and seen. They don't use influence to elevate their own image, but to awaken something within others. When you speak in a way that restores dignity, encourages belief, or ignites purpose. You become part of someone's inner dialogue. That is how true impact survives. The listener begins to repeat your message, not because of admiration, but because it speaks to their soul. To sustain lasting influence, one must also practice reflection. Growth deepens your voice. The more you learn, the more depth your words gain. Impactful communicators never stop refining themselves. They evolve with every experience. Reflection ensures that your influence remains alive and relevant, rather than rigid. Stagnation dulls the edge of impact. Continuous growth keeps it sharp. Time eventually fades all things, but not the energy behind intention. When your communication arises from love, service, and truth, it imprints itself on the collective memory of those it touches. Long after your name is forgotten, your essence remains through the changes you inspired in others. That is the highest form of influence, to live on through the betterment of others' lives. Leaving a lasting impact is, in essence, about alignment. When your thoughts are clear, your words are true, your emotions sincere, and your actions consistent. Everything you communicate carries the signature of authenticity. People can feel that alignment instantly. It resonates like music. Such communication doesn't just pass through ears, it settles in hearts. And as it travels from one person to another, it multiplies, extending your reach far beyond your presence. The mark you leave is not measured by the volume of your voice, but by the depth of your sincerity. Speak with purpose, act with consistency, listen with empathy, and live with integrity. When you embody these qualities, every word you speak becomes a legacy. The sound may fade, but the meaning remains. True impact is not about being remembered. It's about leaving behind something that continues to make others remember themselves more clearly, more bravely, and more humanly.